Have you ever noticed that the more you try to control your irritation, the more it seems to control you? You promise yourself, "Today I won't let anyone get to me." But then comes that comment, that sideways glance, that situation that seemed tailor-made to throw you off balance. And there you go, reacting exactly as you swore you wouldn't. And then comes the guilt, that frustrating feeling of having lost control again, of having handed your peace over to someone who didn't even deserve your attention. And you ask yourself, why am I like this? Why can't I just ignore it? Here's the truth no one told you. The problem isn't that you're weak, overly sensitive, or need to toughen up. The problem is that no one taught you that behind every disproportionate reaction, every emotional outburst, every sleepless night ruminating on what someone said or did, lies a silent root that no one helped you see. And that root has a name: insecurity. Not the obvious insecurity you admit to having, but the subtle, disguised one that makes you need to prove your worth through every response, defend your ego in every argument, absorb every criticism as if it were a verdict on who you are. In this content, you will discover 4 stoic attitudes, tested for over 2,000 years, that can completely transform your relationship with irritation. These are not superficial techniques for emotional control. They are profound changes in how you interpret the world, process provocations, and, most importantly, protect your inner peace. And stay until the end, because the 4th attitude is the one that fewest people master, but it is precisely the one that gives you back power over your own mind. Are you ready to stop reacting and start choosing? Then take a deep breath, because what you are about to learn can change everything. First action: breathe before reacting. Let's start with the obvious thing that nobody practices. Breathing. Seems too simple, almost naive, but here's the truth. Between the moment something irritates you and the moment you react, there's a microscopic space. And it's in that space that the whole difference lies between maintaining your peace or handing it over on a silver platter to someone who didn't even deserve your attention. When you consciously breathe before reacting, you're not just filling your lungs with air. You're creating emotional distance between the stimulus and your response, regaining the control that impulsive reaction steals from you. Think of a practical situation. You're in traffic, running late, tense, and someone cuts you off while honking as if it were your fault. Your body is already preparing the response. Adrenaline rising, a curse word on the tip of your tongue, the urge to retaliate. But what really happened? A car changed lanes. That's it. The rest, the interpretation of disrespect, the feeling of personal attack, the need to teach a lesson. All of that is meaning you're adding to the event. And when you take a breath before reacting, you give yourself the chance to question. Does this situation really deserve my energy? Is it really worth losing my peace over? Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, said something revolutionary. It is not things that disturb us, but the opinion we have of them. Read that again, slowly, because it changes everything. The event has no power over you. The power lies in the interpretation you choose to give it. And conscious breathing, 3 seconds of pause, a deep breath through the nose, a slow exhalation through the mouth, gives you enough time to choose a different interpretation. Not to be nice, but to be strategic. Because every time you react impulsively, you are telling the world, my peace is for sale, and the price is very cheap. Now imagine the opposite. Someone provokes you and you simply breathe. Pause. Observe your own reaction arising without letting it dominate you. This 3-second pause doesn't seem like much, but it's enough time for the brain to switch from automatic attack mode to conscious mode. It's enough time for you to remember, I have a choice here. I can react as I always have, or I can do it differently. And when you do it differently, when you remain calm where you would have exploded before, something powerful happens. You not only protect your peace, you strengthen your self-confidence because you prove that you have control over your own reactions. The practice is simple, but it needs to be intentional. The next time you feel irritation rising before opening your mouth, do this. Inhale deeply, counting to 4. Hold your breath for 2 seconds. Exhale slowly, counting to 6. In this brief exercise, your nervous system begins to calm down. The adrenaline that was preparing you for combat diminishes, and you regain access to the rational part of the brain, the part that can assess whether it's really worth getting into that fight. It may seem silly, but try it. Try it just once in the next irritating situation that arises. Breathe before reacting and observe the difference. Observe how what seemed urgent and unavoidable, the need to respond, to defend yourself, to put the other person in their place, suddenly loses strength. Because you created space. And in that space lies the freedom to choose who you want to be in each situation. Second attitude. Observe. Do not absorb. Now let's talk about something that's probably happening to you right now. Emotional absorption. Someone throws out a criticism, a mean comment, an unsolicited opinion about your life, and you absorb it like a sponge. Those words enter, settle in, start echoing in your head, and suddenly you're spending the whole day, sometimes days, ruminating on what was said. The problem isn't the criticism itself. It's how much you're allowing it to penetrate your emotional defenses and occupy mental space that should be reserved for things that really matter. Here's the crucial difference. Observing is recognizing that something has been said. Absorbing is internalizing it as if it were absolute truth about who you are. Imagine your mind is a house. When someone says something negative, you have two options. Let them in with dirty shoes, messing everything up, or simply observe through the window and consciously decide if it deserves to enter. Most people don't make this distinction. They open the door to any other opinion as if they all had the same weight, the same value, the same right to occupy internal space. Epictetus had a powerful saying about this. If you have been offended, it is because you have accepted the offense. It's not about blaming the victim. It's about returning the power to the right hands, yours. When you master the art of observing without absorbing, something extraordinary happens. Criticism still exists, provocations still come, but they simply ricochet. Not because you've become insensitive, but because you finally understand that the opinion of others only has the power you grant it. And when you stop automatically granting that power, your peace is protected behind an invisible but unshakable barrier. Let me give you a practical example. Imagine someone harshly criticizes your work. Your mind immediately wants to absorb. I'm incompetent. I'm not good at this. Everyone notices my flaws. But what if you just observed? That person expressed a negative opinion about my work. Period. It's not about you as a person. It's an observation about a specific piece of work made by someone with their own perceptions and limitations. When you observe instead of absorbing, you can extract what is useful. Perhaps there is a valid criticism there, without emotionally destroying yourself in the process. The practice of observing without absorbing requires constant attention, because the habit of absorbing is deeply ingrained. But you can start now. The next time someone says something that would normally hurt you, pause mentally. Don't let the automatic reaction take over. Instead, practice mindful observation. That person said X. That's their opinion. I can acknowledge that it was said without necessarily agreeing or internalizing it. It seems artificial at first, but with practice it becomes natural. And the result? You finally stop carrying the weight of everyone else's opinions as if they were your own. Your mental energy, previously wasted processing criticism that didn't deserve attention, is freed up for what really matters. And your peace, which was previously stolen by any negative comment, is finally under your protection. Because you learned the difference between listening and internalizing, between observing and absorbing. And that difference changes everything. Third attitude. Don't get into futile disputes. Here's an honest question that will reveal a lot about you. How many arguments have you had that, looking back, led absolutely nowhere? Arguments where you won, but left exhausted, irritated, with that feeling of having wasted energy on something that didn't change anything important. The truth is that most of the disputes we engage in daily are completely futile. They won't change anyone's opinion. They won't solve any problems. They'll only drain your energy and distance you from what really matters. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome and Stoic philosopher, had a clear vision on this. Avoid futile disputes. They divert your soul from the path. And he was ruling an empire, dealing with matters of life and death, but still recognized that not every battle is worth fighting. Now think, if even an emperor needed to filter his disputes, why are you wasting energy arguing with strangers on the internet? engaging in family debates that have been repeating for years without resolution, or trying to prove your point to someone who clearly doesn't want to understand. Before responding to any provocation, ask yourself a simple yet devastatingly effective question. If I win this argument, what do I really gain? In the vast majority of cases, the honest answer is nothing but exhaustion. Perhaps a momentary feeling of victory that evaporates in minutes. But the cost? Your peace, your energy, your time, your focus. When you start filtering your battles with this criterion, you realize that 90% of arguments aren't even worth 5 minutes of your attention. And this awareness in itself already gives you back an absurd amount of energy that was previously wasted on wars you never needed to fight. Think about the endless political discussions that don't change anyone's opinion. The family debates about issues that have already been discussed 1,000 times without resolution. The provocations on social media that only exist to drive you crazy. In all of them, you have a choice. Engage and wear yourself out, or simply not engage. And not engaging isn't cowardice. It's strategy. It's about recognizing that your energy is finite and too valuable to be wasted on disputes that lead you nowhere. The key here is to develop a conscious filter. Before engaging in any discussion, stop and assess. Is this person genuinely open to changing their mind? Am I genuinely open to changing my mind? Is this issue important enough to justify the emotional strain? Is there a real possibility of constructive resolution? If the answers are no, 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 and no, and they often will be, you already know what to do, don't engage. And when someone provokes you, nudges you, tries to drag you into a pointless argument, you can simply smile inwardly and think, not today. My peace is worth more than that. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to explain it. You just need to choose not to participate. And every time you make that choice, you are strengthening an essential mental muscle, the muscle of conscious discrimination between what deserves your energy and what doesn't. And when that muscle becomes strong, your life changes radically, because you finally stop wasting your energy on empty battles and start directing everything toward what truly matters. Fourth attitude: rewrite the thought, not the fact. And now we come to the most powerful and least understood attitude of all: the power to rewrite your interpretation. Pay attention to this, because true emotional freedom lies here. You cannot change what happened. The fact is the fact. Someone criticized you, ignored you, disrespected you. It has already happened. It's recorded in the timeline, immutable. But the meaning you give to that fact, that you can rewrite as many times as you want. And when you change the meaning, you completely change how you feel about what happened. I'll give you a practical example. Someone harshly criticizes your work. Your mind immediately interprets, I was attacked. They are belittling me. They don't recognize my effort. And with that interpretation comes all the emotional baggage. Anger, hurt, the urge to defend yourself or retaliate. But what if you consciously rewrite that thought? What can I learn from this criticism? Is there any useful truth here, even if it was poorly communicated? How can I use this to improve? Same situation, completely different interpretation, and therefore completely different emotion. Seneca, another giant of Stoicism, expressed this perfectly. We are more wounded by the opinion we form than by the facts themselves. Read that again until it sinks in. The fact doesn't hurt you as much as the story you tell about the fact. And if the story is in your head, under your control, then you have the power to rewrite it. Not because you're naive or running away from reality, but because you're strategic. Because you recognize that you can choose interpretations that strengthen you instead of interpretations that destroy you. And when you master this skill, something extraordinary happens. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become the architect of your own peace. Think about how many times you've suffered unnecessarily because you interpreted something neutral as a personal attack. Someone didn't answer your message? Instead of thinking, I'm being ignored, I'm not important, you could think, that person must be busy with their own problems. Someone cut you off in traffic? Instead of, that idiot disrespected me, you could think, maybe they're dealing with an emergency. It's not about being naive. It's about not adding unnecessary suffering to your life through interpretations that you don't even know are true. The practice of rewriting thoughts begins with awareness. You need to catch yourself in the act of creating negative narratives. When something bad happens, pause and ask yourself, what story am I telling myself about this? Is this the only possible interpretation? Is there a less destructive and more helpful way to see this? First, it will seem forced. It will seem like you're lying to yourself. But you're not. You're simply acknowledging that there are multiple interpretations for any event, and you have the power to choose which one will inhabit your mind. With practice, this becomes automatic. You stop passively accepting the first negative interpretation that arises and begin to question, explore, and rewrite. And gradually, you realize that most of the things that stole your peace weren't the facts themselves. They were the devastating stories you told yourself about those facts. And when you stop telling those stories, or start telling more constructive versions, your emotional life is completely transformed. Because you finally understood, the facts are external, but the meaning, and therefore your peace is always under your control. And so we come to the end, but in truth, this is only the beginning. Because now you know, you hold in your hands four attitudes that can completely transform your relationship with irritation, with provocations, with everything that used to steal your peace. Breathe before reacting, observe without absorbing, filter your disputes, and rewrite your interpretations. But knowledge without practice is nothing more than beautiful information that evaporates when the first real provocation appears. So here's the question that really matters. What are you going to do with it? Which of these four attitudes do you most need to practice today? Where are you failing? In what situation do you usually lose control? Think now. The next time someone irritates you, and someone will because it's inevitable, which of these tools will you use? Will you consciously breathe before unleashing that response that's on the tip of your tongue? Will you observe the criticism without letting it penetrate your emotional defenses? Will you question whether that discussion is really worth your energy? Or will you rewrite the interpretation that is causing you suffering? True strength lies not in never being provoked. It lies in being provoked and consciously choosing not to react. It lies in maintaining your peace even when the world around you is in chaos. And this isn't achieved overnight. It's daily practice, conscious decision, constant training. But every time you apply one of these attitudes, you are strengthening an emotional muscle that will serve you for the rest of your life. If this content resonated with you, leave a comment saying which of the four attitudes you will start practicing today. Your answer can inspire others who are on the same journey. And if you want to continue developing this unwavering inner strength, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here you will find practical, applicable, transformative Stoic wisdom to use in real life, in real provocations, in real challenges. It's not abstract theory. It's a tool for emotional survival. Your peace is not given. It is cultivated. And now you know exactly how to do it.